Thanks for staying with us. Last week, the Speaker of the House unveiled 8-point legislative agenda of the 10th House with a pledge to partner with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on the successful implementation of the Renewed Hope agenda of the current administration. The 8-point agenda areas, according to the 126-page document unveiled, include strengthening good governance, improving national security, law reforms, economic growth and development, social sector reform and development, inclusion, and open parliament, and so many others. Now, joining us on this morning is to speak on this is a spokesman for this 8-point agenda, House of Representatives, representing Mr. Akin, Honorable Akin Rotimi Jr. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Mariah, and good morning, viewers.
All right, so we have a copy of, even went as far as making book. I was like, hey, these are lawmakers. But no problem, we've seen your book.
They do it all the time.
Okay, so it's right here. So it says strengthening good governance. That number one, there are 8 of them.
Yes.
And but before we even go to the eighth agenda, why do you think this was necessary for you to come up with an 8-point agenda? Because many Nigerians already say, you are lawmakers, your job is to make the law and supervise, to just supervise and ensure that you ensure that the reps actually do what they're supposed to do, oversight functions. That's your primary responsibility. Why was there a need for you to actually put together an 8-point agenda in addition to what you're supposed to be doing?
Thank you very much for having me. As you mentioned, yes, constitutionally, the role of the legislature, I like for people to remember, R-O-L-E. 3 of them are mentioned in the Constitution: representation, R, oversight, O, L for legislation, and then in Nigerian creation, which is empowerment, because members are expected to be able to empower the people. And you'll find that the principal instruments that guide our work is, number one, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. And then you have the House rules, right, which also guides the activities of members and everything that we do in Parliament. And then lastly, you have the legislative agenda, which is supposed to guide what we're going to do over the next 4 years. It's a reflection of the leadership at any point in time. So someone mentioned we've done that before. Yes, it happened since Dogara's tenure as Speaker, and every successive Speaker has had it since then. Tambuwal had it as well. You had also Right Honorable Femi Gbajambiamala also had the legislative agenda. And incidentally, the chairman of the ad hoc committee that produced the legislative agenda, who was Professor Julius Ihovere, was also the one that produced the 9th Assembly legislative agenda. Now, you say, why do we need it? Now, you have 360 members from different backgrounds, different professional backgrounds, different constituencies. Now, it's important that we have a guide, right, that would, in terms of all our legislative activities, to understand some framework within which everybody operates. So we understand that our bills and motions are trying to address certain issues. The legislative agenda also the path, to sustainable growth over time. So essentially, that's the idea behind the legislative agenda. It also helps even our partners to know the context within which we're functioning and operating. So it's better for collaboration.
Just for clarification, for me, this already sounds like I have many questions. But before then, just to clarify, this 8-point agenda, it's also a way to show like a collaboration or partnership and like validation for the renewed hope agenda of the current administration.
Yes.
And knowing that the legislature is made up of legislators from different parties, is this a partisan relationship, or is this something that is non-partisan and all parties, all legislators, regardless of their parties, are in line with this, this move and this agenda?
Very good question, very valid, especially because, in the 10th Assembly, we have a very diverse assembly. For the first time in the 4th Republic, we have 8 political parties represented in Parliament. And it's also interesting that you have a lot of new members, right? You have about 77% new members in the 10th Assembly. So it says that there's a new energy, there's a new drive, and to be able to make things work in Nigeria as quickly as possible. So in terms of this multi-partisan document, yes, it's a multi-partisan document that was developed through a very, very extensive process of consultation. We had extensive consultation with media, we had extensive consultation with civil society. We actually had a session, right, where we had members of civil society to come and tell us what their priorities are, most of which, form the basis of the legislative agenda. So back to your point, for us, yes, we are very particular about robust executive legislature collaboration, but we're also very, very conscious of the fact that it's a multi-partisan house, and everybody's views, it was debated in the house, and views of people across parties was taken into consideration.
Okay, so since every honorable is supposed to represent a constituency,
yes,
separate from each other, how do you determine whether a motion, a bill, anything that is legislative brought by an honorable aligns with this 8-point agenda that the speaker is pushing? How must an honorable design their duties to represent only their constituency to conform with this 8 points that you have?
Thank you very much. So, for different, for example, I represent Ikole-Oye, the good people of Ikiti North 1 Federal Constituency, Ikole-Oye. We have, extensive issues in terms of security, which we are currently dealing with. In my own constituency, this next weekend, we're going to have a security summit to be able to address some of our peculiar challenges. But you'll also understand that most of the challenges that affect individual constituencies is also within a broader context. So until we begin to unpack these issues, so for example, we have major constitutional issues that restrict the subnationals from taking the lead in security sector governance, in the security architecture, from allowing local government autonomy, for them to be able to function better. Because in the spirit of subsidiarity, the principle of subsidiarity means those that are closest to the grassroots are supposed to take the lead in most of these issues that affect them. So you would see in the legislative agenda as well that there are proposals on how we're going to go about constitutional review, to be able to address these issues on a broader scale. But of course, everybody approaching rules and business, because there's a committee on rules and business that's chaired by Representative Francis Waive from Delta. You have to have at the back of your mind that we are operating within a framework. So it helps your bills progression, your motions progression better when you're able to show. We're not restricted in any way, because they carry a mandate. They carry a mandate of their people, but their people want answers anyways. And it's important that we're able to...
Okay, let's get a few questions. Go ahead.
Yes, so before we now go in and break down the 8 points agenda,
yes,
I know that we have never lacked laws, neither have we lacked good policies in the country. However, our problem has always been implementation. Now, is this document now, is it going to be binding? Can we hold you accountable based on this document?
This is just an FYI.
If peradventure you don't follow through what you have said?
Thank you.
And how do we hold you accountable with this document?
Thank you very much, Obiajulu. And very good question, because, we came into the 10th Assembly inheriting very huge amounts of distrust, from Nigerians generally about Parliament, a huge amount of, cynicism. I wanted to come and have that conversation.
We are going to have it.
Perhaps so, but the point, again, is that we are very particular about addressing these issues, because we found out that for many assemblies, many tenures, they never made that effort to be able to address these issues. And for us, you'll see central to the legislative agenda is communication, feedback, holding us accountable. And for the first time, you actually have a standing committee on the monitoring of the implementation of the legislative agenda, right? So you actually have a committee that's set up to say, look, where are we? You'll find the legislative agenda as well. It's broken down into short, medium and long-term objectives. So you can actually look at it and say, are we failing in this regard? And I dare tell you that some of the things that are in this legislative agenda have already started being implemented. So you'll see that the sectoral debates that we talked about, which is an avenue for us to be able to bring key members in the executive government to come and engage
binding?
with us.
Because remember when we did confab, they said confab, the document they give out is not binding. Because so is this can I hold you accountable? This is the document.
You are going, and I expect that media, you play a very crucial role. We expect you to hold us to account.
Okay.
And that's why this document, that is why we're even having this conversation, because we want to let Nigerians know that crucial issues that would affect your lives over the next 4 years, and even for the future, fundamental issues that have been difficult, intractable, that we've not been able to confront. For the first time, you have a very, very activist Green Chamber that wants to take on these issues. So we need you to hold us to account to it, to make sure that we follow through.
Let me go on a very short break. When we come back, we'll start the conversation proper. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. So as we said earlier, the 8-point agenda is really, really clear: strengthening good governance, improved national security, law reform, economic growth and development, social sector reform and development, inclusion and open parliament, climate change and environmental sustainability. So we'll come to that. But let me start with, I'm with this document, I saw page 36. And what caught my eyes immediately was members' welfare. It says the welfare of members is essential to ensure that they can effectively carry out their duties, serve their constituents, and contribute to the democratic process. Key welfare issues include, let me jump to, and offer legal and financial counsel. So my question is, when you say members' welfare, how much welfare do you need to carry out your constitutional duties, especially in this health sector matter? Are you saying, because are you going to advise your members not to fly abroad if they have any issues and use their local medical facilities?
Thank you very much, Mariah. So, to be honest, you'll see central to the entire agenda is encouraging backward integration and encouraging development of, resources locally, to be able to, stabilize our economy and essentially address key issues. So for us, that is 100% commitment that we have, right? Me, on a personal note, even though I have access to other jurisdictions and all of that, most of the issues around healthcare are here in Nigeria. And we have very good hospitals. We have very, very good hospitals within Nigeria. There's no need for anybody to be able to say you're going abroad for treatment. I'll take, for example, some other areas within the legislative agenda that you'll find. Members are people that are extensively traveled, as you know, because they come from different backgrounds as well. When you go abroad and you see what's, abroad, and you see how extensive their healthcare services are, the least you can do is to try to make sure that within Nigeria, you sort of replicate those things for the citizens. And that's why you'll find central to our agenda is increasing universal health coverage for Nigerians, so that the NHIS is able to cover all Nigerians. We also have as a key objective being able to make necessary amendments to the National Health Act, right? Especially provisions around the Basic Health Care Provision Fund, so that it can access currently from 1% to at least 2%, right, of the consolidated revenue fund, so that at least we're able to meet the benchmark of 15% of the federal budget going to the healthcare sector. This is very important because, as you know, the majority of the pressures that members have from constituents, most of it is always around health. You have someone sick, you have someone
transplants.
It's just a whole lot. Every day you get all these issues. So it's also in the best interest of members that were able to create these key interventions.
Okay, so I saw my surname here, Agenda 8. That's climate change and environmental sustainability.
Right,
I'm an advocate for that.
Okay.
And I just want to know what it means. You mentioned here about NESRA and support for them, upgrading them. But also, what does it mean for a simple advocate like me? I'm going around to schools talking about environmental sustainability, conservation. What does this agenda mean for someone like me?
Right. So first of all, and I'm very happy that we can actually point to aspects of the agenda and have conversations. That is what we want to have. So first of all, we have a committee on the environment, right, that addresses, a lot of these issues. Number one, that this is a priority for the 10th Assembly. So that alone is a guide for you to know that, look, if you reach out either to the person of the Speaker or to the committee, or what I encourage everybody, if you ask Nigerians who agitate on governance, bad governance, reps are not doing anything, who is your representative? If you don't know, right, where do we start from? Okay. I would encourage you. What constituency are you from?
I live in Lagos.
You live in Lagos?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. What constituency?
Yes, vacant.
No, that. Oh,
yes,
okay.
Our Speaker is.
Okay, yes. I know the election for that would hold, so that's Surulere.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So I would encourage that you get to know that person, right? There's always a functional constituency office where you can engage, right? And the House is also going to be a lot more proactive in, all the commemorative days, UN observances.
Yes.
There's a lot of activities that we're going to be, having around those. So for me, it is knowing, look at the provisions in this agenda, familiarize yourself with it. There are going to be public hearings, when we have, some bills and motions in this respect. There'll be public hearings. Right. It's open access for you to be able to attend. So I think that what is even more important, and I like the way that you brought it down to a deeply personal level, because we all have to take ownership for moving our country forward. We need to understand that it depends on you. All too often we have a situation where people think, oh, this guy's in governance, this guy's in governance. What are you doing to hold us to account? Have you written a letter that was unreplied? Have you tried to engage and nothing was done? Have you brought something to their attention?
To that point,
yes, please.
Won't the House Committee on Environment and whatever their brief is, sustainability,
yes,
be involved in every law and every business of the executive that would affect our environment? For instance, all the time when we take the stories from the Minister for Mines and Steel, mineral resources, I think was Yalake's ministry again.
Yes.
And
Mines and
we take that on the table here. We take trade and export. We wonder who is talking about how these mines and all these minerals they talk about, how it's going to affect our environment in the House. So you'd expect that the House Committee has a member involved in all of these businesses as they go, so that whatever sections must provide for that is covered. We don't want to turn to Congo here.
Right.
We don't want to get to the point where they are there now. And we know that we are bringing in foreign investors. They're constantly coming in, going to Kwara, going to Katsina, looking at uranium and all of those minerals that we have. So we don't need to visit a constituency office. I would like to see that the House Committee is seriously involved.
And you're absolutely correct, Nima, especially your point about sustainability in the mining sector. Incidentally, I used to be special advisor to a Minister of Mines and Steel Development. I served in that capacity for about 3.5 years. So I'm quite conversant with issues around that. And you'll see that central to this legislative agenda, right, is sustainability. Yeah. To ensure that whatever we're doing, the environment is also taken into consideration. We had, just before, even though this is at a subnational level, just before I came on, Honorable Commissioner Ali Bioshu that came on and spoke about, ensuring that even in sand dredging and all of that, that you have periods where people are given licenses to be able to extract these resources and also make sure that there's time for them, for the environment to also be able to about that, addressing issues around mining sector, government.
Legal backing.
Yes, and that for us as well. You'll see that about 2 weeks ago or so, you had Honorable Gaza, right, who is the chairman of the House Committee on solid minerals. There's been some legislation, areas of the Act, the Mining Act, to be able to address those issues, and also to be able to take on other issues. Yeah.
Yes. So Agenda 1, strengthening good governance.
Yes.
There's something very important here. So it says the rule of law is a fundamental principle of good governance, and it plays a crucial role in ensuring a just and equitable society. Now, stepping down, it says, the 10th House of Representatives is committed to ensuring that all individuals, institutions, and entities, including the government, are accountable to and governed by laws that are applied consistently and fairly. We saw over the years where both individuals, politicians, organizations, everybody somewhat flouts the rule of law. You call for a meeting, you call someone to come and appear, and then they don't appear and nothing is done. What is the plan right now on the side of the legislatures to hold the people accountable, or to enforce that when you call them to appear for probably questioning, to answer whatever has happened, that they appear, and if they don't, something, a form of repercussion will be given to them?
Thank you very much. And you'll see from recent engagements in the House, I mentioned that we're supposed to kick off the sectoral debates. And you'll see that when invited the service chiefs to come and dialogue with us. Sections 88 and 89 of the Constitution empowers us to be able to invite anybody. And they sent representatives because we understand that they're extremely busy. But we insisted that we're not going to have any representation for such high-level engagement, that we insisted that they had to come in by themselves. So it's been rescheduled, and within this week, the sectoral debate on the security sector would hold. But that was an important precedent for us to be able to lay, that we're not going to accept anyone trivializing, invitations from the House, because we carry the mandate of the people. It's not just us. Everything that we're doing is based on the agitations of our people. Almost every plenary day, there's one security-related motion or the other. So if it's important to our constituents, then it should be important to those that we've been asked to engage. So for us as well, and you also talked about a culture of, equality, and the fact that, society is totally broken when nobody can go to the legislature and get redress on issues. And that for us is very important. You also see central to our agenda is legal law reforms, to be able to ensure that key aspects of the law we're able to amend key aspects of it to make dispensation of justice, access to justice for everybody a lot more possible. And then lastly is the point about, you mentioned issues of even disobedience of court orders that you find. Yeah. And there was that debate relating to the recent NLC strike and how that there was a standing court order restraining the strike. So overall, we want to encourage all parties, all stakeholders in the Nigeria project. It's very important, even down to the little girl or the woman that is abused in our house on domestic matters, and she gets to institutions supposed to give her justice, either the police or the law courts, and then you find the pressure that people put on such people. Okay. To excuse them from the formal justice systems, to say, don't worry, it's a family matter. It's important that we're able to make the courts, active enough to be able to address issues.
Let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we continue with our conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. All right, so I was a bit worried that I didn't see much on media, broadcasting, even entertainment industry. I was going to come to Agenda 6 that spoke on inclusion and open parliament, and what struck me there is the open parliament and citizen engagement. This is extremely crucial, especially because we have a very divided populace. Many Nigerians are divided on different either religious, tribal, ethnic grounds, and there's a need to bring us back together as Nigerians. And that would only happen through proper engagement of the public and where there's an open parliament with you, where we hear what you're saying, you're talking to us, engaging. But how do you plan to engage us, Nigerian citizens? Because many of us don't trust you. What we hear, you buy cars, especially when the president is saying renewed hope, let's tighten our belts. Lawmakers are buying cars, and we're thinking, are they aligned? And so the perception we have of you is different from what you're showing us. So we're thinking, okay, how do you plan to bring us back together as a nation to trust you? Or in other words, how do you buy back our trust?
Thank you very much. So there are different approaches to it. So first of all, when you look through the entire document, you'll see very central to it is media and communications engagement with Parliament. And also central to that is proactive engagement and disclosure, so that we can tell Nigerians as much as possible what we're doing, so that you can actually follow legislative issues and progression. So for example, you can follow progression of bills that are in your interest in environment, climate, and all of that. So for us, that's very important. And then secondly is also ensuring that in a short while that all constituency offices, right, of legislators are up and running and active and become the points through which Nigerians can engage, because not everybody is going to be able to get on a bus or on a flight to get into Abuja, but the constituencies are very important. So you actually have a committee, right, on constituency outreach, which is, empaneled to be able to enforce, right, that we have operational constituency offices across the board. So that is the touch point. That is the touch point through which you can approach your legislator and have a petition, right, and you actually hear the petition on the floor of the House, and you actually see progression on it and actually get results. So all through making our order papers for, whoever is interested, there are avenues through which you can get our order papers, our notice papers, votes and proceedings, handsets of the House. Yes, I know that right now the National Assembly's website is being reworked, and very soon, because there's been a huge turnover, especially in the courts. I think there's been a whole lot. So right now that most of the cases have been disposed of, right, we're going to see the website up and running. But aside of that, not everybody is going to be able to access the website. We want a situation where people can approach constituency offices of members and be able to get answers and also be able to share their agitations. So for us, it's a general disposition about being a lot more proactive about issues.
Sorry to
yes.
and I'm sorry to just add something to that. So I am a Nigerian citizen.
Yes.
I open the news and I see lawmakers about to buy a car, 160 million, and I don't like it. Mm-hmm. I write a petition, right? I take it to my constituency. I live in Koshofe.
Yes.
I write a letter. I take it there. Mm-hmm. Now, would my lawmaker therefore take that to Abuja and debate it? Now imagine all other concerned citizens like me do the same thing across the country, and it comes to the House that our people say we shouldn't buy this car, or they're suggesting we should use Innocent, or they're just suggesting we should use a smaller Camry or something, whatever it is. Would it be discussed, or would you, by preference, choose what you think should be discussed or not discussed?
So I'll tell you that every single matter that is brought before the House by way of public petition, it is mandatory, right, that it is referred to the Standing House Committee on Public Petitions. And it is chaired by Honorable Mike Etaba, right, and he has a whole, I'm also on that committee as well, because it's important, and I have raised a few public petitions, and I've followed some of them through up until this point. You see, like I said, there's been that amount of distrust. And, many people have really just given up on this whole, it's all the bad stories, this can never work, this can never work. Let us start putting our institutions to the test. Let us start testing these issues. Let us start engaging. We have made solemn vows to Nigerians. Right. We've not only taken that, we've taken a step further to document it and say, hold us to account, right, on this. So I think that Nigerians, again, just before you move on the next point, Nigerians need to get used to the idea of a legislature being a people's house. Right. It's that arm of the government that can, they're supposed to be closest to the people. Right. If you understand what I mean. For many years, you had the military incursion in government. And for many years, the arm of government that has suffered the most has been the legislature. That's outrightly suspended. So Nigerians have not been used to the idea of having a legislature. That's why it's like, what are they even doing? And we have a series that we're starting soon, and it's actually going to be called Waiting Legislators, Waiting Reps They Do Serve. So exactly, let us echo the minds of Nigerians on this. What are really these guys really up to?
Yes. Can I just ask a bit?
Just towards the hand.
Yes.
Okay.
So the question now is, just so that we know, they have given us code. It's not enough now to just rant.
Yes.
It's not enough to just be talking on social media, on TV.
Thank you.
As long as we have a petition, once that petition gets to you, you must discuss it. Absolutely. What makes it a valid petition? Because you know how it is. You have a few people, a few hundreds, or does it have to be signed by tens of hundreds? What makes it a valid petition to get to you and be debated?
So any citizen, right, can write a petition to the House. Any citizen.
Single person.
Yes. It can be sent as an individual, right, or it can be sent as a group. As long as it is signed and you have the person's details, for feedback and all of that, and it can be sent to your constituency office. You don't even need to come back. No. It's not. No, the legislature is actually where you get reprieve. And you'll see that many of the public petitions, and we're going to be sharing the details. I think one issue we've not had in the past has been sharing those success stories. So people that have been wrongfully terminated, those that have been arrested. There was a petition just last week about wrongful arrest and detention, right? And these are the issues that when you see those petitions and you see the outcomes of them, and I think quite commendably for the House Committee on Public Petitions, you would understand the role, right, of the legislature in being able to bring redress for Nigerians. But like I said earlier, the challenge the parliament has had for many years has been not addressing these misconceptions, not communicating enough about our success stories.
Clearly what you've said about, individual petitions, people coming before the House to pray the House to address certain issues.
Yes.
But we are mothers, we are children of the same mother.
Yes.
And you did. And if I was crying outside, baby, I say, just fast for Monday and Thursday, as the Prophet ﷺ has said. Should I see you tearing chicken on Monday evening? While I'm still fasting, I have not drink Gary. The question is about the cars.
Yes.
Can the House unanimously agree? Is it even possible in this my wildest dreams that...
Explained that procurements for issues relating to members resuming in a new assembly are typically resolved by the bureaucracy of the National Assembly in the preceding year to the resumption of a new assembly. So these are conversations that it's important that you have, because now
that's especially of 2027.
It is very important, but not even just for 2027. I pointed out in some of my media engagement that there is a national automotive policy that came in force May 23rd, right, this year. Now, that automotive policy is very clear about some objectives that we have, about encouraging local producers of vehicles. Now, again, when you say, oh, the legislature, this is the amount, this is the number, but it's not just us. People think it's a thing of, oh, it's not just everybody's doing it and we feel entitled. That's not what it's about. But I'm pointing you in the direction that in the executive, you have 550 ministries, departments, and agencies. You have 2,000 boards. Now the budget, the appropriation bill for the 2024 budget is coming to the House anytime soon. We're expecting it from the executive. Look at every line item where you're going to have vehicles. It is the duty of both the legislature and also media and civil society partners to ensure that we hold the executive to account.
And we start holding them on time.
That's not only you, that's
the
point.
Again, let us make this clear that it's not a thing about Me Too and everybody else. But I'm pointing you in the direction of change. And I've also told you that in terms of accountability, when you have these conversations about, oh, why do members take away the vehicles? Why don't they? Why do you wait until the vehicles have been taken away?
Let's agree that this is a procurement issue and it has been done before the House sitting.
But wait.
Can this House say, let it not be done again?
Because you're going to buy back trust, remember?
It's not everything we must carry fight. So,
like I've said,
if we see the House just doing what they need to do.
Yes.
Okay, these cars have already been bought and you come out because now you want to have, in this interaction with the people.
Yes.
And say, oh, we didn't have a hand, but we could not have said no. It has already been done. Can you say next time we put in laws to ensure that this doesn't go forth? Continue.
So I wouldn't rule out legislative action in terms of this to actually reinforce the provisions of the National Automotive Policy, which is in place by the executive. So the executive themselves have created that policy. There's a continuum in government.
Local.
Exactly. So even though it's a preceding administration that put it in place, but it's extant, and it's for us to then say, look, how many of these ministries, departments, and agencies, right, that are going to buy hundreds, maybe thousands of vehicles in 2024? Don't go on sleep. Don't go to sleep on that. The same energy we've used for the legislature, which is important, and I'm happy.
I agree.
That's the point. Because again,
is it that? So my idea of anybody who's leading, whether you're a legislature or or you're an executive, is that you put the interest of the people first.
100%.
Do you sit back and wait, looking at the economic terrain till the people agitate for something before you decide that at this moment this is not the right way to go? Can we pause pause on this? Do we have to be the ones to remind you that we are actually tightening our belts? Or can you use your discretion as a leader who cares more for the people than for the position to say, at this point, we're not moving forward with this. Let's spend it till the economy gets better.
You're absolutely correct, Obiajulu. And I think that it is not even a matter of discretion. It is a matter of your duty, right, to be able to do these things. You'd see that when the issue of vehicles broke, you talk about being responsive. It broke on social media on one Sunday morning. Before 1 o'clock, you had a statement out. Right? And probably the reason the conversation extended that much in media is because we're very upfront about the issues.
Yeah.
We told you in plain details all the issues. And we told you areas in which you should look. So for us, again, we have our duties as legislators to be able to carry out our oversight functions of the executive. But again, an active citizenry, right, an active media is essential to hold us to account. Every single minute that we spend in that office, lives literally depend on it, and it's important that we are held to account. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not abdicating, right, responsibility, our duties. I'm saying that we need you to also hold us to account. So when we are working, civil society, media is working, then
all right. So
all stakeholders.
there's something, we have a grouse from 9th Assembly.
Okay.
And this is about the Gender Equal Opportunity Bill.
Yes.
So I see part of the agenda this time around is we are going to have inclusion, and then there's the women's political representation participation. So what does that mean for that particular bill in the 10th Assembly? Has it been presented again, and will we see a different outcome?
Thank you. So leading the Committee on Women Affairs and Social Development is your host representative for your location here, Honorable Kafilat Obara. And she's working extensively, because you'll find that what happened in the 9th Assembly, right, was that there wasn't a lot of sensitization, right, about the issues, yes, before those bills were presented. Because when people just have the perception, especially even lawmakers, that, oh, these bills is just about women, you want to subjugate men, we need to break it down and make people understand these issues. And people have pressures, not just from their own individual proclivities, but they have traditional institutions, they have stakeholders they report to back home. They'll say, look, I'm hearing that this bill is... In fact, the attendance in plenary that day was overwhelming, because everybody wanted to have a say, on such matters. So it's important that there's a lot more advocacy and engagement on these issues. And you'll find in our legislative agenda that it's central to it. To be able to say, we are even taking things a notch further, to say that, look, can we have constitutional amendments to allow for special seats for women? Because just to be able to resolve the historical inequality for a period where you have special seats for women.
We have to go because we're running out of time, but there's one last question I must ask you, and this is just your personal opinion. Do you feel that we can actually have a united house, especially because you're so different? I mean, we've seen it, and it's related to Mariam's story. There's always issues of different, the religious differences, ethnic differences, zonal differences, issues of even local policing, issue of, resource control. There are so many.
Yes.
How do you, or are you all in agreement with this document? Have you all read it? And everybody from different parts of the country understand what exactly you plan to do? Are you in agreement? Because we're really worried that the House is seemingly divided on some critical issues when it comes to women, young people, resource control, policing, state policing, and independence of the local government's autonomy across the nation.
So I'll tell you, the House is very united. I don't see any reason why Nigerians would believe that the House is divided in any way. Yes, I talked about the diversity, but that's actually the strength of it. And importantly is that we have an experienced and visionary leader in the person of Right Honorable Abbas Tajudeen and Right Honorable Benjamin Kalu at the leadership. You have also the House leader, right, Professor Julius Inhofe, that bring the maturity to bear in all the things that are done, and of course all the principal officers of Parliament. But aside of that is that when you put in place a consultative process for arriving at decisions, it's hard for anybody to do. This was debated extensively, right? And members had input in being able to put this together. Yes, there is a diversity, but that diversity is actually our strength.
All right, we have to go. I like the People's House. Nice.
That is what we want to be known as.
I like the People's House.
Exactly. That's what I want to encourage everyone. Yes, you can download it.
Is it free?
Read it. It's free. For number one, it's free to download it. And if anybody wants, I'll be happy to engage anytime.
All right, that is all we can take on today's show. Hope you learned a few things as we have. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.